All right, I guess we're only 2 minutes late, so might as well get started now. My name is Greg Duescher. I'm a solution architect for Unidesk, and then my co-presenter.
Oh, I'm Jeremy Ey from Tennessee Tech.
So we want to get this going. Really, the whole point was to talk about layering, how layering works from technical. Obviously, Unidesk kind of officially started layering. We've been doing it for 7-8 years now. I've been with the company about 1.5 years, so I want to keep this high level. We've got a kind of a hodgepodge of decks, so whatever you want this to be, whatever you want, 40 minutes is your time. I speak for a living. I do this pitch on a daily basis, so I get no pleasure out of going through the fast and through. I've got a home lab. I've got remote access. We can do whatever we want. If this divulges into Q&A, totally do that too. So try to keep it as little marketing as possible. Keep it about the tech. Jeremy's kind of got a hybrid or overview of your VDI environment. He's been a longtime customer. Him and I were customers together as I worked at a University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh prior to this. So I was a user for 4.5 years prior to that. So that's how we actually met as Twitter buddies on the customer following. So I guess a show of a hand, who's doing, say, VDI today? About half, okay. Anyone not doing View? Any Zen desktop, any Zen app users? All right, cool. So that's where things start to get interesting. Currently, we've been doing VDI for Zen Desktop, Horizon View for a very long time. And since when we started, we've recently added Hyper-V to give you some choice. And what we've got here in the deck, a little stuff up our sleeve for what's coming with our new 4 version of the product, which goes into Zen app, goes into Citrix, goes into PBS. I know it's a VMUG user group, but really opening it up to any cloud, any solution. So I guess, why don't you kick it off, kind of through. Again, feel free to shout out, raise hands, ask questions. We want this interactive. I don't just sit and talk at you. It's getting pretty late for the day, so I don't want them to fall asleep.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat as Greg. The more interactive, so if you have questions, just shout them out. So Tennessee Tech, we are in Cookeville, Tennessee, so a little bit of a haul to get here, but it's been an enjoyable trip. So we have somewhere in the neighborhood of 12,000 students. We have about 1,500 faculty and staff. And our VDI deployment primarily is student-facing and lab-facing types of deployments. We do have a few other places where we're using it, and that'll kind of come out as we go through the presentation. Some of the goals we had in terms of our VDI deployment and what we were trying to do. We have PC labs on campus, needed a kind of a cost-effective way to maintain those. So that was one of the things we were going for, as well as improving our delivery time. When, somebody comes along, it's great to say, yeah, we've got this process, you fill out this form, you request this application, but we all know there's times somebody comes along, I need this tomorrow. And so having that effective way to just really quickly get those applications deployed was something that was important to us. Just for any of our environments. As far as BYOD type of support, we knew that was something we wanted to do, we were interested in for a variety of reasons. One of them just getting applications, getting that environment to students, regardless of where they were or what time it was they finally decided to work on their assignment. As well as we were kind of outgrowing some of our labs with some of the courses that wanted to use technology as more disciplines were becoming more computationally intensive. It wasn't always convenient to have a class that was 25 students so they would fit in a lab. So that ability to give that university computing environment to them on their own device, wherever they were, whether that was in a classroom, in the library, at home. And again, just that extra flexibility of how we deliver that and how they accessed it obviously was of interest both to us and to the students, because now they can log in at 3 o'clock in the morning in their SpongeBob PJs, as a colleague of mine likes to say, and they can run MATLAB, they can run Maple, all those applications that are important to them. And we can kind of take care of all of those things. We are 100% non-persistent on our desktops because it's all lab environments. We wanted that, when you sit down and you log in, you get that pristine environment. It is exactly what we intended it to be. You don't have to worry about what you did last time, what somebody else did last time, any of those types of things. So that was kind of important to us. Right now we have about 200 thin or zero clients deployed in our labs, and then we have about 450 desktops that are supporting BYOD types of things for students bringing their device either on campus or again remotely. We've also used it in a couple other weird areas. Shortly after we expanded our VDI infrastructure, our student health services clinic was interested in doing electronic medical records. From an IT perspective, obviously one of our concerns was we don't want a bunch of patient data sitting around our health clinic where somebody walks in and goes, oh, a computer, and walks out with it. So deploying that on VDI gave us that security of, hey, all the records are in our data center, which hopefully is a little more secure than the clinic that everyone's walking in and out of. We've also used it just for some application kind of delivery things where we needed ad hoc applications in different places, like our digital signage, content management. We have a lot of people very infrequently need to do that, so we kind of use that environment to kind of have that controlled space for them to do it. Again, we've kind of had places all over campus. Our College of Engineering has been big on the BYOD usage, trying to get students to use that from anywhere, which has kind of presented some challenges in terms of some of their applications or, the more demanding scientific engineering types of things. So we've had to account for that with some of our provisioning. We've also had our chemistry department was kind of in the same boat. They wanted that remote access. They wanted to kind of expand what they were doing in their courses. So we have been Unidesk users for quite a while, so we do all of our application management via layers. And for us, a lot of that was, that's really what we were interested in, and kind of several of the speakers have alluded to today. It wasn't about the technology, it was about what are we trying to do? We're trying to get applications in front of our students so that they can do their coursework, they can do their research, whatever it is they're trying to do. So how can we most effectively do that? And our application layering in general has allowed us to, that's what we focus on. We focus on managing the applications. It's not about managing an image or anything like that. It really is about, okay, these are the things we care about are the applications, and that's how we're going to address managing them. And having that single copy of Office to update or whatever weird engineering app, any of those types of things, getting it configured once and then just reusing that everywhere that we go has helped. And of course, we don't have, there's no application isolation. So those things where those applications need to talk to each other, all of that just works for us. And the other nice thing is sometimes I think when you kind of look at getting started with application layering, it's like, okay, now I got to go build all these layers for my applications. The nice thing about it is you build that application once, you build that layer once, and then the next time you go to build a new lab, new deployment, any of those types of things, all of that's already there. So once we got our first couple of environments up and going in our layered environment within Unidesk, that third and fourth lab, those went really quick because it was like, okay, I've already got Office, I've already got all the kind of common stuff. I just need these 2 or 3 applications that are unique to that location. So that's what we were able to focus on as we went and worked with additional users across our campus. So a couple of things about our environment as far as our application layers. So we kind of talked about the size of our desktops and our endpoints. We do have 2 OS layers currently, and that is entirely a political decision at the time we started. We have 2 different folks. There's myself and there's another desktop administrator on campus. And when we started off, we were all kind of new to it. We said, okay, we're going to do an application layer for each of us, and that way we don't have to worry about update conflicts and all these other hypothetical things that never happened. But because that's the road we started down, that's currently where we're at. When we moved to Windows 10, we have decided, everyone's in agreement, we are going to a single OS layer, which will take care of a lot more of the, ease the management that much more, as we're not trying to maintain 2 different OS layers. We're not having to maintain 2 different copies of Office and some of those types of things. So it'll further cut down on a lot of the otherwise redundant work that our other desktop admin's doing and give him even more time to focus on the things that are specific to his environment, which is our College of Engineering. And they do have quite a few applications that are very specialized. And so he'll have even more time to really focus on those rather than some of these things that are just kind of run of the mill. Yep, we update Office, we update, Flash Player, all those kind of pain points. When I went through and pulled these statistics, we had about 150 application layers. That changes, I wouldn't quite say daily, but pretty much changes all the time. We had 212 versions at that point. Again, just kind of a snapshot of point in time kind of thing. I went through and tried to filter out some of the redundancy. We have about 85 unique applications layered currently, again, because there is some overlap between our 2 environments. Question?
Yeah, do you think this would scale about 10 times? Like, we've got about 850, 900 apps.
Yeah, so you have, for the camera, so the question is, you had like about 800, 900 applications in your environment. Yeah, absolutely. On a daily basis, I know one of our users or one of our customers has 350, 360 today. Technically speaking, there's no reason you can't have infinite applications. The only limitation we have currently, and it's going away, it's fuzzy, it's actually a VMware limitation, is obviously, VCP test, how many disks can you have per machine? Well, the rules, it's actually 60. On any one machine, the most disks you can have is 60. So we take it with the overhead and that 50. So we have a 50 per machine application layer today that you'll see in a second. That's changing, that's blurring away. It's not to say you can't have more than 50 applications per machine. It's you can have 50 layers. Generally, in general best practice, what we find is it's 1-to-1, so you can keep it easy to manage. You're only touching Adobe. You don't have the stacks, you don't have the clusters. It's per one app 1-to-1, but you might find developer tools. Generally, they have this, which they always use together and always deploy together, and maybe they're written by the same company, bundle that together. So it's 50 layers, and it can be as many or as few applications per. But globally catalog, it's just a folder full of disks to us. So it's a database, which we've done stress testing, we've done simulation with over 1,000 in engineering just to prove that the UI doesn't fall down.
So that 50 is just the total layers you can attach to a single.
Bingo. Any one we call it a managed machine, a desktop VM, synonymous, is you can have 50 things attached to it plus the operating system. So you can
all 800 of your apps probably.
Yes, and that's what we generally see is, and we talk to people on a daily basis, like, hey, we've got 500, 600, 700. Some of it, maybe you won't have to have as many if you have an application. Here's Office for the accounting. Here's Office for this. Maybe we can stream that in and do some tweaks and some settings to customize it differently. But if at absolute worst case, you could totally have 800 in your catalog.
That's my end, unless other people have like questions specific to our deployment.
Cool. Do this out. Cool. All right, can we? Good. Sounds like it's not working. All right. So, like I said, my name is Greg Duescher. I'm the solution architect. Been with them a year and a half. No one really cares. But the day in, day out basis, what I do on an average basis is talk to people like you. They got VDI. They want to do VDI. They have VDI. They don't love it. VDI is not working. The wheels are off. Help, save, help. So that's what I do, and that's what I enjoy. So the Q&A, the interactive is kind of the fun part. But what I want to talk about really in general is what this whole idea, this theory of layering is. At its core, we are a way of separating, isolating, and I use isolating lightly, not themselves, from your image to get to the vision is one gold copy of Windows. You should only have to update Windows 7 once. I don't care if you've got a developers, accounting, a secretary, and engineering department, it should be one copy. And we do that by layering off every other application into a separate application. Forgive marketing. But what we find is that as that happens, as what today is, we generally find the applications, your Office, your heavy hitting, healthcare, Epic, McKesson, Cerner, ArcGIS, any of the big applications, typically the line of business, the ones that keep the lights on and make the company money, are the ones that don't like to be thin up. They don't like to be virtual. They don't like to be pulled off because they've got low-level system drivers, kernel mode device drivers, .NET Fusion keys, that's a big one, even the Horizon View agent, different editions. They don't like to pull off. So you have this pile of gold images, of replicas, of masters that very quickly becomes exponentially. And the reason is every month you're supposed to touch every one of those. Again, supposed to. What happens, the first thing that falls aside is people just stop doing updates. They don't want to break it. They don't go to every replica every time Firefox has a hotfix. Java has a change. So what you get is this gold image sprawl, which becomes unwieldy. And in the end, again, thank you, marketing, you end up burning money. And that's the biggest problem. That's OpEx. That's everyone in the room here. It's your time. Now VDI kind of becomes a 4-letter word because of the amount of time and effort. As more people like it, the better job we do, the more they like it, the more work for us. So that's what layering is trying to combat, is get away with this idea of having a one image, one copy application for any environment. So a bit of history on us, history of layering. Like we said, we went public in 2009, or we shipped product in 2010. In the first one, we're kind of the third or fourth edition of layering today. First one that was out of band, so it gave us, we were using cache points, but we were focusing on pulling off the applications, putting it back. We call it a capture environment, an install machine, similar to a thin app. We give you an installation machine. You go to that, you install it. AppFoms calls it a provisioning machine. Same general ideas. You go to it, you install it. What's happening underneath at the file system, at the registry, we're taking all those writes and putting it to a separate disk, a separate layer, a separate drive. VMDK, VHD, which way you want to put it. That's going to be the file changes, the registries, and that allows you to modular pull apart these applications. So rather than putting in a base, you put in a separate layer. At the file system, every write, whatever the installer does. So we don't need to be a service, an agent, a driver. We don't need to know anything about the application. As a write comes in, we put it over here. When we go back to build a machine then, so when you put the layers together, all we're doing is merging that back together. So the first crack, we were just merging file systems, essentially copy and pasting, merging it into a C drive. You go to add and remove programs, it looks like it's all in there. Underneath, they're separate hard drives. They're attached. We used to use a proxy VM, almost like a bootloader, Pixie bootloader, to handle that. So that worked for about 80% of the applications. And what we found is that the remaining, 11%, 20%, 19%, is that we need to focus on how applications work together. And the same thing we've struggled with for years with ThinApp is that when you have something that uses Outlook to send an email, then you have to bubble and expose them together. Any applications, they generally like to work together. Whole the reason we have on our desktops is PDF viewer. It needs to work with your web browser. Firefox needs to see Java, needs to see Flash, needs to see Shockwave. Applications need to be able to see each other. So we started focusing on the ability to merge things together, merging components, merging applications, so they all look like they were there and look like they were always there. So things like .NET. .NET's biggest problem is there's the engine or native generation, the fusion keys, the precompile. .NET's a just-in-time. Well, Microsoft realized it's not fast enough, so they have a little thing in the background called the engine or native generation, which runs after the machine's been idle for 15 minutes. How many people have built a VDI pool and suddenly had 15 minutes later watch all the machines do a huge CPU spike? Well, that's because they have to recompile and merge all the background. It really can kill when you build 100 machines and suddenly they're all going. Your host starts blowing smoke out the back and flames because suddenly everyone's doing a very CPU, very storage intensive task. So we found ways of breaking that apart, merging those back together. So you could stay to the same vision, layering everything, nothing in the operating system, and being able to do that. And then things on printer drivers. How many people hate printers? Have a struggle on a daily basis. Generally, we're the last person to know that a new printer is coming until you see the delivery guy wheeling in. Oh, I guess we're on Sharp this release renewal. So you throw out all your Xerox drivers. This department bought HP. This was a Canon on sale at Best Buy. And before long, you have this whole war zone of drivers and software you have to manage. So we're now allowing you and focusing you to layer drivers. We're doing that at the low level at the system at pre-boot. So that's a big thing is those software, anything that runs system-wide has to be done before the machine starts up. So we've always taken a ground up, including the operating system approach. That's probably a little bit different about us versus everyone else. We're not doing just sprinkling apps on top. We're not dropping Office at login. We're focusing on the core problem you have, keeping one copy of Windows, but putting everything else as a layer. So third gen, where we are today, where we're just about literally 2 weeks from launching our tech preview of version 4, where we lost a number in the middle. Third generation's version 4, is the ability to do both. Do it per user, so at login, at session, at connection, we're calling elastic layers, but as well as still the kernel, the low level of the system. One copy of Windows, one copy of an application, and more prevalent of non-persistent, so the floating pools like Jeremy's seeing, but still giving the experience that your end users have today, their desktop, their settings, their files, still being able to write changes out. Any questions on that so far? Anyone layering anything I missed on? Pretty straightforward, pretty smart group, sounds like. The other thing is, and again, I know we're at a VMware user group, so I'm going to try to stay neutral, stay what you want, and wow, okay. Pretend there's clouds. On my screen, those are clouds. So the idea is to be able to bring your machines to any cloud. Maybe today we're focusing too heavy on technology, on view. We're doing view. Versus, like Jeremy said, at the end, our goal is just to get our desktops to our users so we can all get on with our jobs. So we get back. That's the goal. So what we're offering is really abstracting off this platform specific, this entitlement, this embankment with VMware, with Citrix, with Microsoft, Azure, Google, Amazon, Nutanix has got Acropolis coming out. The stuff's coming out very quickly. You should be able to very quickly change your workload, move your environment, just like we've been able to do now with servers and server virtualization, move it around, do that for desktops, do that for applications, so that as options come up, you can be nimble and move the way you want to. And I don't know what the slide's showing. I'm sorry. Marketing. So what we're doing, and really the biggest thing, you see our current stack today is well, that's what it's showing. So our current environment today is focusing on 3 layers. The operating system, that gold copy of Windows, Windows updates, and VMware tools. And in all of your applications, we have priorities. So you can make ones if you want Adobe Reader to beat out over Acrobat Pro. If you want Firefox to beat Chrome for the default browser, we have a way of prioritizing and stacking them. But as well as the user on top. And that's the big setting. That's where all the rights, all the changes, all the edits. We don't need a profile manager. We're not redirecting it. Any C drive change, a user installed app, their downloads, a temporary scratch file goes into the personalization of persistent disk, which carries on. We're not doing a different drive letter. We're not doing folder redirections, no services. Nothing gets missed. The other thing is, if they get a virus, the virus is in the personalization layer. You can very easily roll that back, undo the virus. It's not going out in your network, it's not going on your machine and embedding, it's just in the only thing writable. Everything else, green, yellow, is read-only. So to complicate things, we're now adding a 4th type of layer. And the 4th type of layer is what we're calling a platform layer. So we're gonna have your OS, your Windows, your platform, which today is gonna be your VMware tools. That's gonna be your View agent, probably, VMware tools, what edition, what version you have. But then things like Hyper-V. I mean, chances are people in here at least heard of Hyper-V, or maybe they have a pilot, maybe they've got a license. Chances are you're paying for it already. It might be free. Question or just aren't? Okay, just checking. And then as things came up, we mentioned Acropolis, mentioned that. I mean, there are a dime a dozen these days of providers, host providers. We want you to have a choice. So what we're adding is this notion of a platform layer where that's all the specific tools, software, network cards, integration services, whatever you want. So you still have one copy of Windows company-wide, deployment-wide, web scale-wide, because we're scraping off and keeping it in a separate environment. So what are we focusing on? Application layers, one of each. And notice things like antivirus, printer drivers, Dragon Naturally Speaking, what else did they put on here? SolidWorks. Deploying out to the pools. Again, these are supposed to look like pools. Wow, this projector is eating my presentation. These are clouds, by the way. Accounting, HR, sales, productivity, whatever use case, whatever pool, whatever collection, delivery group, whatever it's called, from the same set of applications. And now with that, you can also pit your platforms. You're like, well, the sales guys are never really in the office anyways. Why the heck is their machine here? We're all using Salesforce, all cloud shared. Why is it here? Let's put the sales desktops on Azure. Let's put that on vCloud Air. Let's put that on Horizon Air. Somewhere else, save my internet pipe. They can go there and connect to it. One solution, one console. You don't have to create another image. So we're giving you that flexibility. You start thinking, going, yeah, why are we doing that there? Or why, more so, why are we doing VDI everywhere? Why are we doing, Horizon has it now for a while. Why are we not doing session? I mean, this is not back to the terminal servers days. People need to have settings, make changes. So we're adding, to allow that, is what we're calling the elastic layers. With the elastic layers, we're going to dynamically attach at login, similar to what App Volumes is doing, similar to what Liquidware has been doing, but do that on top of a layered image. So you have your base, things that are pre-boot, the system drivers, the View agent, obviously can't hot add that, it's got to be there. So we capture that, we layer that, we publish off an image, build a machine from that, pick your platform layer, notice the gray one. And then as they log in, if they're a sales role, if they're accounting role, if they're a student, they're going to get their application. It works really well in higher ed. As soon as you add them to the Active Directory group for the accounting class, they get the accounting app. As soon as they're in the engineering lab, they get the engineering. You license, you don't have to care where they're running. You don't have to make pools like we do today with the applications. We're dynamically attaching them at login and on top of the underlying layer. So I still have one copy of Windows. What I have is far fewer pools, far fewer collections to manage. So now you just make one big one for everyone. They're getting elastically attached applications, as well as a little blue person on top. We're getting our personalization. We're doing the same thing. Network disk, we're attaching it at the C drive. No redirection, no service, we're not trying to capture it. We're filter drivers. So as soon as we attach, as soon as the login happens, every write from that moment on goes to that network disk, to that virtual hard drive. The nice part is the end machine, the endpoint becomes irrelevant again. So why do we have to give them the desktop in the first place? Why can't we go to session? We're like, all right, well, we want them to have personalization. We don't want everyone to have a web server. Well, Windows 2012 can be skinned to look almost exactly like Windows 10. That's kind of a cool feature. All right, so they won't know that on the test. We want them to have their applications. Well, we can elastically attach based on their rights and roles, which applications have. Like, okay, yeah. We want them to be able to make changes. Sure, we can do that with personalization. So we can do it inter-session. You might have, one server here with 5 different people, accounting, sales, IT, engineering. Each one of them is going to see a separate C drive. If they all logged in, look at the C drive because we are capturing any reads and writes and merging that together. 5 different users, 5 different use cases, one app server, one RDSH server, and they're getting different drives. So now you can pack everyone onto a session host. The reason we care, licensing, it's a lot cheaper to license a session OS. I mean, you can get the data center licensing and everything is carte blanche on that server. We don't have to pay for VDA necessarily. Again, I'm not a Microsoft guy, so it's fuzzy. But we can also still give them that native personalization, and you have no risk of them messing it up, because as soon as they log in, as soon as that session starts, every write goes to a network personalization disk. And the nice part is this is all part of a solution. So you're using the same environment, same deployment, same mechanism for desktops and for sessions. It's one console. It's simple. See some nodding heads. I don't know if we're trying to coax me along. Any questions on this or anything that seems, anyone? Yeah, go ahead.
So how do you handle the latency that you would require to have really real-time back to that personalization?
Yep.
If it's network-based and it's like they're roaming across multiple devices.
Yep. So it's still network. In the end, we're finding that this is going to be in a data center. So it's possibly maybe the file server is a network share. Maybe it's a VM anyways. Maybe it's the NetApp in the corner, the EMC in the corner. Chances are it's on a 1 gig or a 10 gig network. It's going to be as fast or faster than their network they have to their endpoint. So, versus just a traditional VDI, it's still a disk attached to the machine. So you're dealing with SCSI latency and fiber channel backend data store latency. Now we're going across the network, which on a data center network should be arguably nothing, depending if the capacity is there, and it goes to the file server, which is probably on the same storage array. So the workload shifting, and we're adding a little bit, we're assuming 5 to 10%. We're mounting this at boot very quickly. We're not actually going up and around attaching disks. We're seeing, in our examples, between elastically and not elastically attaching a layer, about 3 seconds a login time difference, because we're just boom, boom, boom network using it. The other part is it's very easy to scale out a file server. So this can be not global. This isn't one for everyone. This can be GPU based. This can be architecture. This could be if you have a remote office branch, maybe you stand up a VMware Tower server over there, have a little file server VM. Their VMs are running there. They're attaching locally their virtual disks. They're not coming across the WAN. The endpoint, if they're working from home, my iPad, I'm on a View environment right now, it's not coming across the wire. All the data, all the files are staying in the data center. So it's roughly the same as what you're seeing now. If they're hopping machines, they're roaming, we're not copying, we're network attaching. So if they have a 25 gig personalization layer, they just got tons of junk on there, a huge Outlook inbox, we're just attaching it, or using it. We're not copying anything. It's a good question, but what we're seeing from our tests so far, almost a net change. And a lot of places are already using a profile manager. They're already using a Medio, Persona. So it's not a big change there, except that we're taking a service out of the play. There's no scrape. It's file system access. A filter drive is the same thing antivirus has been using for years to hijack your reads. So as soon as you start browsing the folder or open a file, the filter driver catches that IO path, checks it, brings it on. We're doing the same thing. As you ask for a file, we go to the network drive and give it to you, and you're like, oh, cool, it's on my C user's document. It's where you think it is. It just happens to be over here. Cool, good question. So that's 4 in a nutshell. Any questions on that? We can jump in. I know I got a few minutes left. We can do Q&A. I can show you roughly what it looks like and show you the current code. Anything, any particular question? Yeah, go ahead.
The personalization layer, I've used Unidesk in the past. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping to use it again in the future. Typically, the reason you have separate pools is maybe you have a subset of users that are going to need a larger personalization layer. So if we're going to eliminate more pools and have more one big pool, then how do you manage who gets what? Are you doing it? You're not going to do it user by user.
So it'll be either way. So all the application assignments and even the personalization, because the personalization is still an assignment, is done. We have a small agent, a service that actually gets attached to the login script. So at login, our little mounter runs. And what it does is look at a network share, which is defined today in a registry. And on the machine, we write it by default. It says, hey, look at, file server here, file server 14. Maybe it a NetApp, EMC, wherever. It just looks at a file server. It looks for a config file. It's an XML. And what that does is look by machine name or by username or a security group, a set of policies. So you say students, because you don't want to put every Joe, Steve, Bob, Kyle, you don't want to list them all. You just want students. Students get a 4 gig VHD, virtual hard drive. We provision it at 4 gigs thin, and it's on this drive. Faculty gets 27 gigs, and it's over here. Different files or different locations. IT gets a ton, and it's over here. So it'll still be the same granularity you get today. It's just it'll be a little bit simpler. It'll be policy based on security group or user count.
Okay, so it used to be you do it when you were creating a pool. Now you're just creating policy.
Yep. So what we're actually doing, and the big thing about 4.0 is we are stepping back. We are taking, right now, Unidesk 2 version 3, we are building the machine top to bottom. We become the management. A little disruptive. If you guys have Composer today, we change that. We don't use Composer. We have to replace that. So it's a little bit like, I don't want to test that because I like Composer. I mean, it's running. I've got my SANS native acceleration. I've got vSAN. I've got the vStorage accelerator. I've got whatever else they call it today. All the 7 stuff you guys saw in the previous presentations, that typically doesn't work for us because we're owning the stack. We've got 1,500 users, a lot of very happy customers, you having been one of them, I guess twice technically. But we are still at a choke point. So every time VMware adds a thing, we spend a lot of engineering time. It took us about 18 months to get Hyper-V support. It takes time, and as more and more keeps coming. So what we're doing in 4 is we're actually becoming a layer management. So we are managing it and then providing you an image. Image happens with connectors. We drop that onto View Composer. You provision a pool with that. So use link clones and us. We just become replacement for you or the intern building the image, taking a snapshot, following the guides. You just layer, pick and choose, and shop it out. Say you're a Citrix shop. You'd like PVS. I mean, it's been around forever. You can tune that. You can make that blazingly fast because it's largely RAM. We can drop an image off to PVS, off to MCS, off to Hyper-V. We become an image factory. Same technology we've been using forever. 1 copy of Windows, layer on the applications, push publish, and rather than us building desktop, we build you an image. And with the connectors, they're open-ended. You can write your own. You can have one Unidesk environment do Hyper-V and Composer, or Composer on here, different shops, different locations. Today, we're kind of attached one-to-one to a vCenter. So there's some scaling issues where if you're a multi-tenancy DR, we're all worried about that. Maybe you've got a hosting provider. Maybe you don't see the actual vCenter. You're doing vCloud, for example. Well, we don't have the API, so we can't work with you. Or the really, really big, let's think of Wall Street. They're 10, 15, 20, 30, 40,000 seat deployments. Zen Desktop, Zen App, or Horizon View, big environments. We can't go that big because we're managing. Well, now we're going to image. Once we provide the image, I don't really care what you do with the image. You scale out your file server for as many machines and connections you have. You use your provisioning system, which everyone makes one. All the new stuff, that instant clone will work with us. We just simplify your jobs of care and feeding and managing it. So no matter how big, how diverse, how complicated your environment is, how many pools you have, you're still going to have 1 copy of an application, 1 copy of Windows. See, we all know inside we're lazy. I'm a previous user, so I know how much application and that management's not fun. Hey, it worked. Cool. So this is as I said, the current environment today. I'll be mindful of the time, but this is my Unidesk. It's 294, so it's on vSphere. So I'm building machines from an application. And this is probably a fairly realistic list of the applications you have. I've got Google Earth, OpenGL drivers, HP printer drivers, the Horizon View agent, different PDF drivers, different versions of Office, different versions of Java that I can pick and choose from. Really, I can build any environment, any use case, we're calling it a template, from pick and choosing these layers. Underneath, I've got this lab here has got 1 Windows 7 machine. So I'm patching it for me, right click, add a version, we boot up a machine, we call it installation machine, you go to it in vCenter, next, come back here, click finalize. Whole process, boom, boom, now you can test it. Everything is individually versioned, so there's never that risk of, we don't want to do the updates because we don't want to break what we have. I mean, often once you got things running, don't touch it. 3 months later, 6 months later, no, don't touch it. Waiting for summer or spring break or something to find a downtime, which we can never find a good downtime for. For us, we add a version, doesn't touch what you're doing today. Everything is built off of their machine, off their image. You can test it out. If it works for one person, then the test users, then a department, then everyone else. Same thing for each application. Different versions of Java as they update. There's so many applications out there. I mean, we can only spend so much time testing, before you push it out there. You get a surprise because it happens. You roll something out there going, that didn't work. Or more often than not, it didn't work for one person, one department, one user. They use this really legacy app that you're like, I didn't even test that. I forgot. Why are you using this? And a different discussion, like, all right, I just want to get them up and running. So with us, we roll them back to a previous version. If it's elastically attached, we edit a config file saying, next time you log in, attach the old version. We're not undoing Windows. We're not recomposing. We're not rolling back all the Windows updates, all the fixes, all the Flash, all the Java, all the exceptions you had. You're just fixing the troublesome app for just them. Everyone else runs the newest, latest, and greatest. So it's a very, very granular approach to that. So 4.0, we'll peek under the hood. Again, this is very, very alpha code. It compiled and then they sent it to me. So the tech preview, again, end of the month, that's focusing on Citrix PVS server. What we have is just simply images. So I've got, a clinical use case, a computer lab image, non-persistent. I've got a PVS image with net booting, sales, and then maybe a county government, the E911 dispatch. It's often a big one. All you're doing on these different use cases, let's poke at sales for a second, is making an image definition. So I want him to have WinRAR, Chrome, Office 2013, Firefox, sitting atop my Windows 8.1 image. So I've made an image definition. We call it a template. When I'm ready for it, when I want to send it out, I click publish. Go to, publish. When I go to my sales, what we do, in the current version, it just publishes it out to a drive, network file server. So I'm just going to go to it's like my Hyper-V server, forgive me, but it publishes off to our file server. And at the end, you get a VHD, one disk. You drop that off to a VMDK, into VHD, NetBoot, PVS. We're just building it. As the tech preview comes out, we're going to have native integration. So you'll say publish, you'll actually say send that to PVS. Click one button, we'll merge it all together, make your order. I use the analogy bacon a pizza. This is everyone's personal pan pizza. We'll put it together, run it through the oven, deliver it to your PVS server, deliver it to your Composer server. So as we're staging it through, that's the initial release. Throughout the semester or throughout the spring, we'll adding more and more View integration, Composer integration, MCS, Hyper-V, Cloud. Azure will actually drop right away too. Underneath, same notion. One layer, one copy. We're focusing on what we're good at, layering the applications. You like it because you only have to do it once. Same thing for the OS. Although everyone can count, I've actually got two. Because I would do, obviously, 2012 for your VDI, or for your session, for your Zen app deployments, Windows 8.1, Windows 10 for your VDI. Well, that's really what I had, and that's layering in a nutshell. Thanks. Thanks, guys.